The Prison Peer Mediation Program is a program that was started by the Dayton Mediation Center and the Dayton Correctional Institute. The Dayton Mediation Center went in and trained 30 inmates on how to peer mediate within the prison. And those trained women help mediate conflicts that arise between the other inmates within the prison.
Prior to the program, I would have my unit staff, my sergeants, case manager, and unit manager do mediations between inmates, either cellmates or conflicts inside the housing unit. They would sit down and do mediations with them, try to find out the problems before anybody was moved or before anybody got in any trouble.
And there's a power that comes from being able to have your peers help you out as opposed to someone who is either removed from the situation or has power over you. And so peer mediation really kind of levels the field that way, and that's really the power of this design.
I felt like it would give a lot of long-time offenders, lifers, an opportunity to participate in something for them to do. Also help cut down on a lot of minor conflicts inside the housing units that staff wouldn't have to deal with.
Can we drop it? I already said once it wasn't about the money.
With our training, it's a 24-hour basic mediation training in the transformative model. And so we split it up over 3 or 4 days and train the women on how to peer mediate. And then we also go in monthly to talk with the women kind of about how the process is going, how things are going within the community, and then giving them more skills on how to mediate. And so we've kind of debrief some of the mediations that they've done, and then we'll do role play and practice and help them build the skills that they need to continue to mediate.
Oh, there's definitely a lack of communication. But you want to know something that you told me.
It gives the peer mediators an opportunity to come in and ask questions, to get more information, more teaching, and it gives Jessica opportunity to come in and provide new information, new direction.
And so, you need to be in there just as much as they are, helping them to.
We have a system of referral cards, so to say, that anyone can fill out and request a referral. Most frequently, I think, if somebody goes to the correctional officer in their unit and explains to them that they're having a problem with someone else,
instead of like giving them a ticket for disturbing, you're like, okay, well, better yet, I got something for you. You know what I'm saying? We have this mediation thing here. So when they come in and they know that we explain to them exactly what mediation is, then they feel comfortable knowing that they're not going to be judged, it's going to be confidential, and they're here to, one is here to speak and one is to listen, and vice versa. And it just might be something as simple as don't make up the bed, or they maybe don't bathe as regularly like one may expect or clean. Sometimes it can be as simple as that.
I'm really upset that you couldn't pay me again this week.
I think because of the environment we're in, where so many people have been stripped of the ability to make decisions for themselves about so many things, even our schedules are sometimes made for us. It's really wonderful to see somebody who can actually make decisions for themselves in an issue of conflict, and they're able to work through it, peeling back all of the layers and getting down to what is really the root of the problem between these two people.
Well, you're not wrong. Let me just.
Part of the process of mediation to make somebody feel heard is the reflective process, and also we do some summarizing while we're going through the conflict with them. So as they're speaking, we will reflect back to them what they said, using the same verbiage in many cases and also the same intensity. So if someone's very upset, then we're going to reflect back to them in a very non-disrespectful way exactly what it is that they just said, and in the same mannerism that they said it. So they know that we get it, and they feel this person gets it. They know what I'm saying. They understand me.
I ask you to understand what the boundary issue is. You want her to understand the boundary. Yeah, people entrust you with.
Well, you would think that would be like, oh, a matter of fact, like that's exactly what I said. But it's like more humbling, like, yeah, like that's exactly what I'm trying to say, like, and and then they come back with feedback off of that, and just be like, well, this is also how I feel. So it's just like, it's empowering that they actually got it out and somebody actually understands.
And doing that also gives the other party that opportunity to hear it maybe in a different way than what they did when the original person said it. And so it also kind of slows down the process and helps them to really hear each other in a different way.
I think if somebody says something during a mediation process that anyone in the room might perceive as bizarre or ridiculous under normal standards, it's very important that we don't ever make them feel uncomfortable that something that they said should not have been said. Whatever the reason was for why they said it, no matter how much sense it doesn't make, it was valid to them at the time. It was something they felt they needed to say, and they need to be heard on that point.
I can see how you were unable to communicate with me. I guess I just didn't realize why.
You know, at times as people, we hear what we want to hear. But as a mediator, I learned I had to hear what they were actually saying and listen for what their needs was, what they were not saying as well. I hear you. I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'm not adding. I'm not subtracting. I'm validating what you're saying because people need to be validated. And that was a turning point in my life.
Really trying to affect culture change so that everyone knows that conflict's inevitable. You know, we're human beings. We're going to come in conflict for each other. But when you create a culture that has conflict intervention processes in it, people know how to use them and access it. So some tips for starting a program similar to ours, a peer mediation program that's based in a prison, really starts with connections with people to that facility. And so it certainly does help if a community mediation center has a connection with a local prison or a social service agency like prison reentry programs and probation departments and programs that really help to provide services to people who have been incarcerated and maybe reentering back into the community, or programs that actually provide educational and training and services to people who are incarcerated. So if you have a connection with that, you can really begin the conversation. And it all starts with the conversation and talking about what are those needs that a prison might have around conflict intervention.
We went in and we talked to a handful of women and posed the idea of, you know, is this something that you would even be interested in? And we got a lot of good feedback from those women. And several of those women actually ended up being in our first round of mediation trainees. And so in trying to start up a program, I would say, you know, that was a very crucial part, was just getting that feedback from the inmates and knowing whether or not this is a program that would work for their community. And the communication, I would say, is probably the hardest part of it all.
We work hand in hand together. It's probably not a week that we don't talk. So I think that's the driving force, I believe. It's very essential that you choose the right inmates to be peer mediators. They live here and they're going to be here a long period of time, so they have a vested interest in behaviors here and how things run.
You guys told me you were available for mediation.
Staff has to believe that this can work. And they have to empower the ladies that's willing to do this to be able to get their job done. Because as inmates, sometimes we can see things that staff don't see. Sometimes we can get truths that staff can't get. And it's not for them to believe every inmate that comes up to them, but if you're gonna trust someone enough to do a job, then you should allow them and back them to follow through on it.
There are a lot of moving pieces for this project. I think a lot of it is relationship building. You know, when we went in, we didn't know who these women were. We didn't know their stories. And so we sat down the first day and opened our training with kind of going around the room and introducing ourselves and, telling our stories. And that started to build a bond. And so we've had a really good relationship with the women that we've trained. And I think that has been a major sticking point for this program.
So we've taken our time to build relationships to connect the key people, because what's needed is you do need someone that's in-house as a program manager overseeing scheduling, training, education information about the program. Community mediation centers are uniquely positioned to help with conflict intervention, primarily through mediation, conflict coaching, and other services. So I would recommend that to anyone, particularly a community mediation center that's interested in setting up a program, or really any community-based grassroots efforts that's really looking to how do we help serve the population of people who are in prison, because they're part of the community as well.